Yes, you read the title correctly. I am destroying my Master Sword. Now, before we get into why I wanted to demolish one of my perfectly good props, if you didn't know, the long awaited sequel to Breath of the Wild Tears of the Kingdom has just released, and it has consumed me entirely. I love all of Link's outfits, Zelda's outfits, Pura's outfits, the Zonai's outfits. I just want to make everything. But what really captured me immediately was the Decayed Master Sword, which I didn't even think was going to look as cool as it did, but it's kind of a look. And I was really tempted to make it, but not so much where I wanted to make a prop from scratch. But then I also saw Zelda in her brand new dress from the game with the corrupted Master Sword in hand, and immediately I was inspired. I have to do this cosplay, and the corrupted Master Sword along with it would look so freaking cool. But why would I want to take my Master Sword that I've already spent multiple hours on and destroy it to make a decayed version? A couple of reasons actually. Because I lied, this is not a perfectly good Master Sword. It's actually one of the first 3D printed props I made completely on my own, and it is unfortunately a little worse for wear. From far away it looks fine, but there are a few places where I didn't get the finish perfectly smooth underneath. So the blade isn't as nice and clean as I would like it to be. It's had a lot of wear and tear from multiple photo shoots and traveling with it over the years, so the paint is scuffed and chipping away in some places. And more importantly, when I printed out this sword initially, it was in multiple pieces. So the blade is actually made up of 4 parts, and unfortunately along each of the seams it's starting to hairline fracture a little bit because the glue I used at the time was not super strong, and honestly I'm afraid just one more bad bump or weird swing of this thing could totally destroy it. So I've actually been looking for a good excuse to make a new Master Sword, but I just didn't want to completely trash or get rid of this one. So it's being recycled, it's being put to good use. But yeah, so not so much of a tutorial video because the sword is already made, but I figured it'd be a fun little craft experiment because I've never taken a prop that was already done and made it into something else. But I'd figure I'd record my process and it might be a fun learning experience. So yeah, we'll see. To start, I take a picture of the Decayed Master Sword and print it out to scale. Once that's done, I tape together my pattern and start by just making a rough cutout since I'm just here to check the size first. Looks pretty good. But now I'm realizing how much I'm actually going to have to cut away. But I make a little bit more of a detailed cut, so I have a nice design to transfer this pattern onto. Once that's done, I tape it down, and I make a very, very rough outline. Nice. Now it's time to do the other side. Once both of the sides are traced out and ready to go, I mark off where I'm going to be cutting away most of the material. Safety first, don't forget the gloves. I'm not gonna lie, that was kinda painful. But now that the hard part is over, now it's time for the details. For this part, I'm using my trusty Dremel safety gloves, a respiratory mask, and safety goggles. Now it's time to Dremel away. Now, I'm not going to lie, this took forever. I had to experiment with quite a few different Dremel tips too, since it wasn't really cutting through the plastic like I expected. I actually had to cutting away more material since it was taking so long. Now with as much material cut away as I could, back to sanding. Now for this hole in the middle of the sword, I took a drill to it. Yeah, but it ended up working out, and all I had to do was file away the excess. Back to Dremeling. And not too shabby. Now these huge holes on the side, I'm going to have to fill in later, but for now, I'm actually going to carve some more detail into the sword with my Dremel. The Decayed Master Sword has a lot of bumps and ridges, and actually multiple layers of texture, so I just kind of went to town and started creating pits and divots into the base of the sword, but still leaving a few silver patches here and there. Ooh, that looks pretty chewed up, but not too bad actually. There's a lot of texture, but now I have to do the other side. And if you follow me off screen here, you can definitely see what I'm working on. Thanks for that, Akemi. Good filming. And all of the sanding work is finally complete. This took me hours to do. Now it's time to fill those unsightly holes on the side. So, taking my 2-part epoxy and my safety gloves, of course, I grab Goop A and mix it in with Goop B to make one homogeneous goop. And I just kind of, I don't know, slapped it in there. I didn't really have a rhyme or reason to this method. I just kind of dabbed it in there to keep some texture. This step ended up taking me a while, mainly because it kept sticking to my gloves. I also went ahead and reshaped the tip with the leftover epoxy. And it doesn't look too bad. Now I just have to set it down overnight to cure. Once the epoxy was all cured, I noticed it was pretty rough in some spots. Some little sharp jagged edges sticking out here and there. So I decided to go ahead and sand those bits down a bit. Grabbing my random piece of sandpaper from my sandpaper box and just kind of lightly sanding down those raised edges. Not really trying to smooth everything out, just trying to get it a little less bumpy. Now to blow away the dust with my mini leaf blower. I love this thing. Now we prime. I grab some gesso and some old black acrylic paint. Oh gosh, very, very old. Once that was mixed together, I took my gesso concoction and just started slapping it on. Even though I'm applying this pretty thick, I'm trying not to lose any of the texture I carved in recently. I also took a tiny brush to get around those silver edges. We definitely don't want to cover those up. Oh yeah, that's satisfying. Now to bring back some of that crungly texture, I took an old chip brush and I dabbed along the wet edges of the gesso. Now we lookin' hella crusty. Look at all that decayed crust. Now it was time to add some color using also old acrylic paints. Mixing together my gross decayed green shade, I went ahead and I slapped that on top. Also being careful to avoid the silver bits once again. Now I know my hands look steady, but trust me, they're not. But hey, not too bad for shaky hands. Now to add in those darker shades. Yum. I was looking at my reference for this part to try to copy the picture to the best of my ability, but I'm not going for perfect here. As long as it looks close and gives the general feel of what the Decayed Master Sword looks like, I'll be happy. And once that is dry, or kind of dry, I went ahead and added in some lighter shades to create that swirly effect. Again, I'm not striving for accuracy here, I'm just kind of going with what I think looks good. Now behind my hand here, you can really observe my excellent painting technique. But yeah, not too bad. It looks not super impressive when it's all matte like this, so a little bit of satin clear enamel top coat should fix that. Ta-da! The Decayed Master Sword is complete. Now, I did find this project a bit more challenging than I anticipated, mainly because what I did not remember was I had printed this sword out of a measly 10% infill. If you look back to the holes that were present on the inside of the print itself, that means that this whole sword does not have a lot of internal structure, which one means it's extremely light, but two also meant that there wasn't a whole lot of sculpting or shaping that I could do while I was sanding it away. So if you look at this Master Sword via side profile, she's a little thick. Not necessarily a deal breaker, but I would have preferred to, have it tapered a bit more towards the tip. It's fine. For working with what I had, I think it turned out great. I just won't shoot it from the side. But overall, pretty good learning experience. I've never altered a completed 3D print before. And yeah, I hope this was informative, entertaining. But in case you didn't notice, this is the only other video on this channel besides that one Has-Been Hotel cosplay music video that I did a while ago. I'm still really new to this, so any constructive criticism, feedback regarding anything on this video, the lighting, the sound, the editing, because yes, I did do it all. So give me your worst. And yeah, we'll roll some glamour shots, and I'll show you guys where I'm going to put this up on my prop wall. Unfortunately, I'm running out of space already. He's going to go in a corner. But thank you so much for watching, and thank you for all the comments and feedback that you may leave. I hope you do, please. That would be super helpful. And yeah, see you next time. Also, quick side note, sorry if you feel catfished at all. I almost never wear makeup, so expect a whole lot more of this. The beginning of the video was a treat, okay? I don't wear makeup.